Welcome to the Fast Break Podcast. We're your hosts for the Hoosier Network. I'm Ari Betterly, here with Ryan Costello and Sam Elster for the Hoosier Network. Guys, it was Super Bowl Sunday last night, so I just want to talk about how it was for you guys. Ryan, let's start off with you. Wearing
As you
your
can
Eagle
see,
shirt.
I'm wearing my Eagle shirt, and no, I'm not a bandwagon. I've been a fan my entire life. My dad's from Philly. I even had a sweatshirt from the last time they won the Super Bowl 8 years ago. So I'm not a bandwagon. But I had a really good Super Bowl. It was really fun. I mean, I wish it was a little bit more competitive, but it was nice to see someone put it to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yeah. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Giants fan, so, little different thoughts. But, I just kind of wished it was a better game, honestly.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
But the halftime show was good.
Halftime show, I liked that a lot.
Yes.
That was good.
I would agree. I also had a very restful, nice Super Bowl Sunday. Ate some buffalo chicken dip, had my spreads, had some hot dogs, all the good things that you need to enjoy a good Super Bowl. But moving on from Super Bowl to women's basketball, another another topic we can invest in is talking about women's basketball. So IU had a interesting weekend for starting off with Rutgers. This game showed a lot of potential of how good this team could be, but I'll let each of us give our opinion. So Ryan, I'll start with you and we'll work around.
Yeah, this week was a mix of emotions. I feel like Thursday you got all the highs, and then towards the end of the week you kind of got some of the lows. But that kind of, I feel like, matches how this team has been this season. They've had some really big highs and some lower lows. But Terry Morin said that in one of her press conferences in the beginning of the year. She says there's going to be peaks and valleys. And Thursday against Rutgers was definitely a peak because they had 15 threes, which is the most they've had in a single game this season, and also set records for most threes in a 2-game stretch and a 3-game stretch, and had 10 in the third quarter. And in the third quarter, they also outscored what they had done in the first half. Some of that was, I think, Rutgers just leaving Indiana shooters wide open on some possessions, but all other were Indiana finally hitting shots that they haven't been hitting this season against top teams like UCLA, USC. So I know that felt good for them, and maybe it was because Sarah Scalia made her entrance back.
What I was gonna say.
Sorry, I'll let you expand a little bit.
No, I agree. I think that was amazing how they made a comeback in that second half, and that Sarah Scalia, who's known for raining threes, especially against prime players like Caitlin Clark in the Big Ten, was in the building. But I think I agree. I loved seeing them, excel beyond the 3-point line and just play a good game of basketball, play a well-rounded game of basketball. And each, starter kind of had a moment to shine. And we each saw them play their best game and brand of basketball. But yeah, Sam, any other thoughts before we move on to Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, they also, continued to do, great playmaking, 24 assists. And, they did that against... I forget who they played before, honestly, where they had 25 assists. Nebraska. Yeah. And so, they were continuing that amazing playmaking and of course, hitting those open looks.
Yeah. Well, moving on from Rutgers, where, we saw lots of great things from the Hoosier team. 2 days later, they are playing on a Sunday against Minnesota on the road, where we've mentioned in the last podcast that this team has a strong at-home winning presence. And that's what happened. Indiana fell to Minnesota by about 10 points roughly. And they tried to fight back. But, Sam, you covered the game. Why don't you really tell us what happened?
Yeah, I mean, back to what you said about their streak at home. Terry Morin said in the press conference, she said that, we can perform well at Assembly Hall and everything, but that doesn't mean anything in this conference if you can't win on the road. And, I agree with that because the first half was pretty strong. They kept up, but then in the middle of the second quarter, that's kind of where Minnesota heated up and IU couldn't keep up simply. Compared to the game prior, they really could not get going. And their star players, Yarden and Sydney, they had a pretty bad shooting day. Only 6 points for Yarden, 7 for Sydney. And the thing that also stood out to me and Terry Morin a lot too was the layups. They were 9 for 20 on layups. And Terry was not happy about that.
I feel like you just can't have that in the Big Ten. But, Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, you can't miss 11 layups, and you also can't get out rebounded by 18 and think you're going to have a chance at winning a game. Like, those are two big recipes in addition to turnovers that like you just can't do on the road or you're not going to win in this conference because it's just too good of a conference.
Yeah. And I was going to mention, the out rebounding too. I think that's been something that Indiana's kind of struggled with throughout the entire season, but it was kind of put on display on the road, showing those, those little valleys that we've mentioned and talked about. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting too that, Yarden only had 7 points and Sydney only had 6 when they both been, pretty consistently being in the double digits for the Hoosiers and leading this team. But, do we have any other thoughts to why they maybe didn't perform as well? I know on the road in the Big Ten, we've said is a gauntlet, but I kind of thought that the Hoosiers would pull through on this one. I can't lie.
Yeah, I think that they honestly were not fully prepared for Sophie Hart at the center position. They were playing great with Caroline on the floor and everything, but they just really were not getting any rebounds. It was pretty hard to watch. And after the game, Shea said, like, how coach always tells them rebounding isn't a skill, it's just who wants it more. And she said today we just simply did not want it more. And it was pretty noticeable if you watched the game that they did not want it more. Minnesota was diving at every loose ball. I mean, they were trying to save it before going out of bounds on any rebound possible, and it just seemed like they were getting everything they wanted.
I feel like part of that's also like not having that presence down there. Like, I know we've talked about it before, but Mackenzie Holmes was such like a guiding presence and probably put some fear into her defender, or did put fear into her defenders. And you don't have that down there, and someone that would just go and grab that. I feel like it's such a committee, and not having a physical presence like her or a different player down there consistently showing up is just going to hurt them. And it did, and we've seen that against other big teams.
Yeah, and I agree. I feel like Caroline sometimes has kind of stepped up into that role, and we've seen Sydney even going in, rebounding the ball a lot recently, kind of trying to fill that void. But like you said, when you're missing such a dynamic force who's so athletic, but yes, so big and like defensive, then someone else has to step up. Someone else has to be that person, and it's just kind of lacking.
But it's confusing because against Rutgers, who was a really good rebounding team, they with the starters in, they were like right there with them. Like for grabbing those defensive rebounds. They're not the best offensive rebounding team, but the effort was there. So it's just like it's the inconsistency we've seen all season with this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and after Sunday's game, they're now last in the Big Ten in rebounds per game, which, isn't a good stat to have at all. And kind of what I was hoping going into the game, it was Lily Meister's homecoming. I was kind of hoping that she would really show up, but, unfortunately, she did not.
And I don't know. I've been rooting for her to find her footing in a starting position, this year, and then that didn't really happen. So now Caroline's kind of taken that role. But even, coming in and having those very definitive minutes, maybe hoping that she would take those and grab those, and it still seems like there's still that scared energy. But that's such a mental thing. I'm not the player on the court, so I can't tell you what she's thinking, what she's feeling. But I mean, it's kind of what it is right now. But moving forward, there's a lot of more exciting games to come as the Big Ten season is not over yet. The Hoosiers have a tough battle this upcoming Wednesday against Michigan. The Wolverines are hot right now. They've won 3 in a row, averaging 20 points. That includes a 10-point win over number 22 Michigan State, which is another great women's basketball team right now. Their head coach, Kim Barnes, is also tied to John Bellion, the most winningest coach in men's or women's Michigan basketball history with 278 wins. So, guys, kind of build on this and talk about, this team. We obviously know they beat the Hoosiers in the Big Ten tournament last year, so this will be the first time they maybe come back for revenge this year.
It's kind of a whole different starting lineup. They have 3 talented freshmen, each one freshman of the week. So this is a team that's going to be able to see success in the coming years if they're already doing this with these players that don't have much experience. They're already beating talented opponents. I know at the beginning of the year, they took South Carolina, the reigning national champion, till the end of the game. They didn't end up winning that game, but they've shown they're competitive and they're a really good 3-point shooting team. So I think this will be a very telling point to see if Indiana is going to avenge how they played and how they showed up against Minnesota, or if it's going to be more of the same.
Yeah, I think they definitely need to go into this game. It's going to be a hostile environment in Michigan, so I think they should really go into it the same way they went into the Iowa game, going into a Big Ten game like this that they honestly do need to have on their resume if they want to go, far in Big Ten play.
I agree. I think this is one of the ones that we mentioned in the last podcast that they need to put on that resume to hopefully secure a decent spot in that Big Ten tournament and then hopefully in the actual NCAA tournament. So let's see how that goes. But then after that, we have the rival match, Purdue, who this is a little bit of a different story. Purdue is 1-11 in conference play and 8-15 overall. Their one win was 84-71 over Wisconsin on February 2nd. So that means that they're treading in the right direction. But it seems like this is an obvious win for the Hoosiers that they're gonna need. If they don't beat Purdue, I mean, that's just gonna look really bad for IU. But I have hope that they can
Mhm.
they can
If
beat
they didn't
Purdue
beat
at
them,
home.
I feel like that would be a nail
In the
into
coffin?
into a coffin
Yeah.
of not making it, because that's
Yeah.
that'd be nothing on Purdue, but they don't have the results this year, and that would just be something that would
Mhm.
the committee would see come selection
Yeah.
show, and they'd be like, "Yep, okay, bye."
Yeah.
So
Purdue is at the bottom of the conference in a lot of different categories, but one of them was last in Big Ten points per game, but also leading the conference in opponent points per game. So Indiana's on an 11-game winning streak against Purdue, and they got to keep that going, especially this season.
I agree. And I think at home, everyone loves a good rivalry. So regardless of how Purdue's record looks right now, I think there'll still be a good showing from the Hoosier squad side of things at Assembly Hall. So that should be, a fun environment to be around. And also when they go and play at Mackey a couple weeks later, it should be fun there at Mackey. So yeah, definitely going to be some interesting matchups. One they definitely need to win and one that should be an obvious resume win. But
Yeah.
that being said, are we ready for some hot topics?
I know I'm ready. I'm always ready for hot
Yes.
topics. So you
Of
guys ready for the
course.
first question?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
What do you guys think IU's biggest weakness is or has been this season? Sam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think honestly not being able to fully stretch the floor with their front court. So we're in a day and age of basketball where, forwards and centers can, take 3-pointers. And something that I noticed a lot in the Minnesota game was that, Caroline and Lily, they can't do that. Caroline airball.
Lily did it once.
Lily did it once, but Caroline airballed a 3. Lily thought about taking 1, but you see it with a lot of teams now that they're forwards and centers. They can really shoot the ball. And I think that obviously this can't be something that can be changed in the middle of the season, obviously. But I think just if that was, capable by Caroline and Lily, that I think that would be a really big game changer.
Yeah.
Ari.
Me? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm excited. Thanks, Ryan.
I was gonna say something and then it just kind of went out of my head. So
Yeah, I was gonna say we've mentioned it so many times, but just inconsistency. I mean, from the Rutgers to the Minnesota game, just a completely different team from that energy standpoint. And like you said, Sam, the rebounding is something that's gonna be, oh, maybe not what Sam said, but something that maybe you might say, Ryan.
little
Little
look into the
sneak
future.
peek. Little Raven Simone into the
I
future.
can see into the future. Yes. Okay.
What you said, and then just like the energy is just so important. No matter where you are, you need to excel on the court. So Ryan, I kind of stole
Yeah.
your thunder here.
No, you're
but-
good. I mean, we've all kind of mentioned it at
Yeah.
some point in this podcast, but rebounding, I think part of that goes to recruiting the players that can help you out the best, whether that's in the transfer portal or getting a new freshman. So I think that's not really something, I mean, you can do the mentality thing like Terry Moran said, but I think going into the future for IU women's basketball, it's definitely something they need to prioritize when
Yeah.
they're either recruiting freshmen or trying to get someone out of the transfer portal. But next question, moving on to more of a positive note, what do you guys think that their
Love
biggest...
the positive note.
Yes, but what do you think their biggest upside is? Ari, I'll go to you first.
You know me, I love positivity, but I will say the Hoosiers' ability to get production from multiple players. I feel as though in multiple games this season, we've seen, key players struggle where it hasn't been their night. And then, that quote we keep mentioning is like, if one player can't shoot the ball, somebody else step up and, get it going. And I feel like that's what's happened a lot of times. Like, I think Sydney stepped up in a couple games. Yarden normally is going to be there. Shea stepped up in a couple games, going really hot some nights. And then obviously Chloe, is always pretty consistent, but she'll step in and have like a high point night a couple times here and there. So with that, I think that's their biggest strength. And also I sometimes think it could be their weakness, but overall, that's my positive note.
Sam?
Yeah, I definitely feel like their ability to go into the bench too and, find players like Hannah and Jules to give
Yeah.
maybe even like little minutes, but, make an impact. But my take on their biggest upside is definitely the 3-point shooting. They lead the conference shooting 36%. And I think that this is a ability that this team should really take advantage of. And I think that, when they're in their groove, they are really in their groove and they're doing great. But when they're ice cold from three, they're not winning games. So once again, could be a weakness, could be a positive. But overall, I think it's a positive because if they have a shooting night like they did against Rutgers, they look, really, really good. What about you,
Even
Ryan?
in the Big Ten, statistically, they're looking very nice
Yeah.
from the 3-point line.
I think the
so-
last time I checked, it was like 16th in the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
It's probably updated since then, so sorry if it's not perfectly correct. But mine is to use their experience and play as a connected team because you look at the starting lineup. Shea, even before she got here, was a 2-year starter at Penn State. Caroline had a lot of time at Tennessee, whether that was starting or coming off the bench. And then the IU players, Sydney Parrish, Chloe Moore McNeil, Yarden Garzone were all starters during their Big Ten championship season. So they know what it is to win. It's just about putting it all together. And we just haven't seen that consistently all season. But to move into the last hot topic question, who would you say, since March is almost upon us, is the National Player of the Year in women's basketball?
Ryan, why don't you say yours
Yeah.
first?
I'm going to go, I feel like, with the most obvious answer, just because she's in State Farm commercials. She's in a Nike commercial that dropped
Who could it be?
last night it was with a bunch of different professional
It was
women
Nike,
athletes.
the Nike
Yes.
ad.
Yeah.
Doechii, who I love, she was voicing it over a rapper. But it's not Doechii. It is Juju Watkins. She completely took over the game in the second half when she came to IU, hit that buzzer beater 3 at the end of the third quarter. She just has that Caitlin Clark-esque gene of just being able to take a game over. So, and she leads the conference in points per game. So that's mine. What about you, Ari?
Yeah, I think Juju's an obvious pick. She is like the Caitlin Clark now of the league, I would say. But if it's not Juju, someone who also has had an excellent season is Hannah Hildego from Notre Dame, who's just been a standout player on her team. She's averaging 26 points, 5.8 rebounds, 3.9 assists per game. She's consistent on both ends of the court. And I mean, just her scoring ability is pivotal to her team. Notre Dame is just, a great team as well. They're ranked really well.
Number 2 in the country.
yeah.
Undefeated, 12-0 in the ACC.
Right. They're an amazing team. And I think that they could go very, very far in the NCAA tournament. So right along with Juju, I think that she could be up there if things keep going the way they are for Notre Dame and how they play in the tournament. So
Hidalgo is very good, but I think...
Did I say that wrong? Hidalgo. My apologies.
No worries.
It's all good.
I think Sam has one that stays in the Big Ten.
Yeah, mine stays in the Big Ten. Mine's going to be Lauren Betts, averaging just shy of 20 points and 10 rebounds per game. And, UCLA is still undefeated in both conference and non-conference. So I think a really big reason why they are is because of her. And she's been super dominant. Just announced also that she's staying for another season, so she's not going anywhere soon. But it'll be fun when UCLA and USC go up against each other, seeing how she'll go up against Kiki and Juju and all of that. But I think she's just dominating the game. And if she doesn't win it this year, then next upcoming year, she's going to probably put up a pretty good fight for it.
USC and UCLA is definitely going to be must-watch TV. I'm very
That's what I was
excited
gonna
to tune
say.
into that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited for that. I think I put a list of some of my top matchups I wanted to watch this season. I think Texas and USC was one of them, or not USC, University of South Carolina.
Oh, yeah, the game yesterday.
Yep.
That was a good game.
And then this one is on my list, so I'm excited for it.
Well,
But
it's
I'm
on
really
Thursday.
glad you put Lauren Betts into this, because how can you not talk about a team that's 23-0?
Exactly. And
Right.
the game against USC and UCLA is Tuesday. Tip off at 10.
All right,
Thursday.
guys.
Thursday. Tip off at 10. My bad.
Darn. Well, actually, wait. No, we could watch that.
Yeah.
I was thinking that the
Oh,
IU game
yeah.
was Thursday. It's
It's
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
Perfect.
Well, there we
They
go.
want us to be able to consume all the women's basketball we can.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry, we will be. But that is all from us today. We've had so many fun questions and opinions to give you about women's basketball right now. But until next week, we are all done. So this has been the Fast Break Podcast. I'm Ari Betterly here with Ryan Costello and Sam Elster for the Hoosier Network. And we'll catch you next time with lots of things to talk about.